You look at them, you think so many things, you feel frustrated, you feel sick of it, you want to tell them, but you just don't know how to. You might have a lump in your chest or in your throat. You might just not know what words to use. So you hold back. You don't want to offend them. You don't want to become too strict. So you don't say anything, but you feel frustrated inside, unheard, unseen, maybe not even valued. Hey, I'm Samu. I'm a holistic transformational mentor for business owners and high performers, and today I'm going to be talking to you about authenticity in leadership. Authenticity in leadership. It's not that common, even though we probably all would love it. Now, in the context of what I just gave you as an example, it's very common that people get sacked with no reason, that people get silenced or ignored. You might have a message you want to share, but you don't share it with your team members, your colleagues, your clients, because you don't want to offend them, you don't want them to pull away, you don't want to lose it, get too rough, too strict, too angry, so you just hold it back in and deal with it in your own way. What happens on the other side is, though, that the other people might feel the same way. And this is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Communication, authentic communication, authenticity in leadership. We need communication. I see it very much like two medieval towns connected with one bridge in the middle. And if one of the gates is shut, well, the bridge is not going to be open to both those towns and they can't visit each other. There's no connection. Now, communication is all connection. We need to have, first of all, need clarity around the message. What do we want to convey? What is important to us? What speaks the truth of our heart? What are we frustrated about? What is the piece of understanding that we want the other person to have that they might not be able to see right now? We need to then wrap that message in packaging that is consumable or unpackable by and unwrappable by the other party. So we call it the sender and the receiver. Now the sender needs to use language and an energy, wording, cultural sort of standards that the receiver can receive. If we package a gift for a queen in a Hessian bag or in newspaper, she most likely won't receive it. She might not even see that there's gold in there. So the same happens when we deliver messages to other people, no matter if we speak or we don't speak. We might be thinking of a third-party company that we wanted to work with and they committed to a deadline but they haven't stuck to it. Now we might feel frustrated and we might feel like we can't tell them without getting too blunt, especially if there's some previous bonds or friendships or we don't want to offend that connection. Now, if you hold back and you don't speak your truth, they won't know any better. They might have overcommitted, they might have never learned to say no, they might have said yes to too many jobs all at once. You name it, it could be anything. You might be doing them a disservice not to say that you're really frustrated and that you want to take that job somewhere else. Now, there is a way to deliver this message of frustration, of course, and this is where the packaging comes in. Now, if you package your message with a way that's called nonviolent communication, which is really important because we don't want to blame in a message. We own our own response. When we do that, we can deliver this message and the other person gets to unpack it and understand that it's well meant and that it's a strong, heartfelt intention. Now, we can't package a message up in a palatable way when there's heightened emotions, when there's frustration, when there's vengefulness, when there's blame involved. In that moment, we can't wrap it in a way that is actually receivable. The other person might feel stabbed to the heart and they won't be able to receive it in a way that is matching the connection. They might get defensive, slam their door, pull away, run away, shut down. And again, that connection from one medieval town to the next is not established. And we will then find a slammed door and then feel rejected on the other side. Now, again, this is where the packaging, the right packaging comes in. It's a skill. We need to learn to communicate our message so it can be received on the other side. So we then actually land the feedback, because it's all what it is, it's feedback for the other person so that they can learn and communicate back, because maybe there's a misunderstanding. Now, if we learn to communicate that way with authenticity, we can actually share what we truly feel in our heart without offending the other person. And wouldn't this be amazing, right? I remember very clearly to this day how I had this thing to me happening once when I was a young 20-year-old. I was living in a shared house. My housemate was leaving spaghetti pots and cooked food in the cupboard. He wasn't really with it. He was struggling mentally at that time, and I didn't want to burden him with criticism. However, it was getting quite challenging and built up, and I found myself really choked up with it. I couldn't say to him, hey, could you please do the dishes, because there's even mold forming on these pots now that are in the cupboard with food in them. You could say, well, what was wrong with you? And I could honestly not answer that question myself. I was asking that to myself. I was saying in my own mind, what's going on with me that I can't even deliver such a basic message to my housemate that should be so obvious? Why is it so tricky? But at the time I felt his pain, I felt his mental illness and his stress and his depression, and I didn't want to burden him with something so insignificant as the dishes, right? So what happened was I kept on choking up. I felt a lump in my throat. I couldn't really do anything with it. I had inner discussions going on in my mind, and I was even talking to my partner at the time, who lived further away, on the phone about this. And then I realized something's wrong here. I'm filling so much time and space, precious time and space, that I could be using for something so much more on purpose and productive than contemplating about this conversation that should be a 2-second job, maybe a 2-minute job. Not, days and days of consuming mental clutter, noise, doubt, questioning myself. So I knew it was time to change. And that's where I came across nonviolent communication. I learned the steps, and they're quite basic. And once applied, I felt like they were really freeing me up. But what it also took was not just the steps, but also clearing the baggage that I had, that I was holding back my truth with, where it didn't really allow me to be super authentic with my message and share it from my heart so that it could be received on the other side. Because again, if we see the two medieval towns, if one holds back, the other one will be missing out too. So holding back and shutting down is not an answer. It doesn't give clarity to the other side. It doesn't offer feedback to the other side. So bringing it back to the example of a third-party company that we might be wanting to engage with a deadline and they don't deliver, if you don't tell them that we're not happy with the service and we will take it somewhere else because the deadlines keep on not getting met, then we don't give them feedback that they will need in order to improve their services, to make it as a business. Because if we just say, oh, don't worry, we'll just, don't worry, we won't do it, or you just keep on kind of getting dragged along, you will be finding frustrated, and you'll find yourself feeling frustrated about yourself, at them, you'll feel probably blame or resentment, and a lot of emotions bottling up that will be building up to something that doesn't make you feel good, not productive, not clear on what you're doing. You won't feel good about yourself just as much as them. You might just be thinking about them and that it's all their fault, but really where it stems from is internally. So if you're honest with yourself and you want to be proud of yourself and live in integrity with yourself and be authentic, you want to authentically express this truth of yours so the other person can have this as a feedback and communicate back to you from their heart as well. It's a win-win. And if you want to learn how to, share your truth with the world, with others, with your team, with people that you care about, and you feel choked up, there's more to it. You want to be really addressing the emotional blockages, the patterns, the conditioning you've learned and taken on throughout your life and potentially lifetimes, and free yourself of it so you can let it go and be all the way who you are, and then share your message from there. When it comes to leadership and authenticity in leadership, this is where the key lies. It's the gold, because this is where we form the bridge from one medieval town to another. This is where we find an amazing community and amazing communities and organizations mean a happy world in a ideal world. So in order to really improve things and find connection, it starts with communication. And this is where your role comes in, to do the inner work it takes for your own leadership to supercharged. And from that moment of your own leadership being supercharged, you can speak from an authentic and present place, and you can share that message with others, which then makes an ultimate impact and creates these win-win situations that we all love. I hope this message met you well today. Wishing you an amazing day and see you in the next video. Bye for now.